So,
Okay.
hello everyone to the one attendee so far, but hello to other people who will be joining us later. Um, this is the Cyber Sleuth Immersion Program information session. My name is V, and my co-host is Ray. We're so glad that you all are here. Throughout the session, we will be taking questions in the chat, so please feel free to type in your questions there. Please make sure to also keep your mic and video off as this session will be recorded. Now let's get started. First, I'd like to share the outline of today's schedule. If Ray could go back one more. Yes. We'll have a short introduction of today's speakers, briefly share our mission at UC Davis, continuing in professional education, provide a short background of Socratic Arts, give you a program overview and schedule, do a course demo, give you a career outlook, the course requirements, the program costs, and the people you can contact with questions, and then open it up for some questions from all of you. So Ray, let's learn a little about you first.
Okay, my name is Ray Baris. I did a PhD in computer science at the University of Texas at Austin. I have been a professor at both Northwestern University and Carnegie Mellon University. I've also worked extensively in industry. And I left academia after many years because, to be honest, I got bored with being a professor. And I joined some old friends at a company called Socratic Arts. And I'll tell you more about Socratic Arts in a little while.
Okay, thank you, Ray. Like I said earlier, my name is V. Pereira. I graduated from UC Davis in 2015 and have been working as a program specialist for CPE for the past 3 years. I'm very excited to be working with Socratic Arts and creating these programs for you. As a side note, if you haven't already seen the updates on our website, our immersion program offerings continue to grow. We went from offering 4 courses in winter to 10 courses in the summer. So I'm very proud that we've been able to work with Socratic Arts to provide even more career choices for you to explore. By the way, we love receiving feedback from our immersion program students at any time. And we are always looking to improve your experience in our courses. So feel free to please email me. Moving on to CPE's mission, continuing in professional education has been the lifelong learning arm of UC Davis, providing learning opportunities that range from youth to international to professional communities. We have served students in Northern California, all 50 states, and more than 100 countries, and we hope to continue our reach in the future. Now I'm going to hand it over to Ray to tell you about this exciting program and give you a little background on how it all began.
Okay, thank you, V. So you probably have not heard of Socratic Arts. Socratic Arts was founded by a visionary cognitive science and artificial intelligence researcher, Professor Roger Schank. And my background is also artificial intelligence research. And we looked at human cognition as a model for building intelligent systems. And one of the most fundamental things that an intelligent entity does is learn. And when we looked at learning, Roger in particular was struck that the way students are taught at all levels, from young students, even in elementary school, all the way to adults in professional education, does not align with how people naturally think and learn. So you know what school's like. A professor like me lectures at you, or in the case of a high school student, a teacher, you mostly ignore what I say, and you're given some small, well-defined homework problems with clear-cut answers, and once in a while you take a test. Well, cognitive science research tells us that things that you learn that way do not transfer naturally from the learning situation to application. In other words, you can't apply what you learn. So what does it tell us about how education should be? Well, if you want to promote transfer, the learning situation should be very similar to the application situation. So what we have done is we have completely rejected the traditional lecture homework test model in favor of a more authentic experience where a student in our courses plays an authentic role. They are a cybersecurity analyst. They're an incident responder. They're whatever's relevant to the task they're working on. They do the same work that professionals do, and they learn the relevant information they need to succeed just in time to achieve their goals. So how do they learn it? Well, we have extensive online materials, very carefully curated, uh, and indexed to what students are being asked to do. And more importantly, we have very knowledgeable, skilled mentors uh, who are always available to give help, advice, and feedback. So this program and all of our programs are delivered 100% online. Uh, students will work in the cybersecurity course in particular in a private cloud environment that will keep their own machine and any network they happen to be on safe. At every step, students are coached uh, to succeed. They're not lectured at, they're not told what to do, but they're helped to find the answers themselves. And the students are evaluated based on the work they produce. This program actually, the program from which this course was derived was funded by a competitively awarded contract from the US Department of Defense. And DoD funded the program to address a critical shortage in the professional cybersecurity workforce. And I guess you've all seen, just recently that, there have been some major cybersecurity incidents in recent days. A nice thing about this approach that we use to education, where students play an authentic role, is we can also put a lot of emphasis on skills beyond purely technical skills. We can help students with analytical thinking, with communication, problem solving, and perhaps most importantly, self-directed learning. Because students, not students, but professionals in this field need to constantly learn because the threat landscape is changing daily, if not hourly. And it's not the case that you can, simply learn some stuff, shut down your mind, and have a successful career. You have to keep learning. We have divided a program into, in this case, it's actually 2 courses, not 3. The 3 courses are in our full adult program. So why would somebody study cybersecurity? Well, I mean, it's a fascinating field and it's a critically important field to our country. Our sponsor at the Department of Defense, uh, said that there are probably 1,000 people who really have the skills to defend our infrastructure. And he says that number needs to be 100,000. It turns out that he's really lowballing that. There are probably 300 to 400,000 currently open jobs in cybersecurity. It's extremely difficult for companies to find cybersecurity professionals. So if a student is considering a career, this is certainly a good career to explore. And this course is designed to help students to decide if this is a good career for them. So they might be interested in pursuing in more depth and working in. And as you can see, job postings have grown rapidly, and it's growing faster than any other field in information technology. Are there any questions? I thought I might stop for a second. Please type something into the chat if you have a question. I'll be glad to answer it. Okay, so perhaps no questions yet. So within an hour of Sacramento, several thousand jobs have been posted. And if you broaden that a little bit and look at the Bay Area, There's a massive shortage of people in the Bay Area. In Sacramento, in particular, they're expecting 25% growth in employment opportunities. And all professional cybersecurity roles will benefit from things that someone will learn in a curriculum like this one. Again, this is a career exploration curriculum intended for high school students. If high school students like this and want to go on and do a more comprehensive professional training program, we can also provide that. So we call this course Cyber Sleuth, and it's really divided into two parts. So in the first part, students will really learn some basic skills which will help them decide if the career is right for them. In the first learn by doing task they're asked to do, they'll explore an insider threat. And I'll actually do a demonstration of that task in a few minutes. And then after that, we want to encourage students to learn to think like an attacker. Adversaries in this space are kind of smart and planful people. And there's a big benefit to learning how they think, learning how to think like them if you want to defend against them. In the second half of the program, do some more advanced things. Do some more advanced network traffic analysis. Students will do some basic network traffic analysis in the insider threat task, but then they'll do actually a much more complex and advanced network traffic analysis task. And then what they will do after that is they will analyze a remote intrusion attempt. And when analyzing a remote intrusion attempt, students will move up from looking at low-level network traffic to looking at the logs that every device on a network records of everything that happens. And actually, when you're dealing with an enterprise network and perhaps a large-scale attack, that's really a more practical approach to analysis. Are there any questions about the courses? Again, I'm going to do a demonstration in just a second. Okay, no questions yet. Okay, so let's do a demonstration. So this is Cyber Sleuth 1, the first half of the course. And this is a general introduction. This is what we've talked about before. These are the things students will learn in the first half of the course. They'll learn how to investigate a cybersecurity incident. In particular, they'll be analyzing suspicious user behavior. They'll learn to analyze captured network traffic. It's called PCAP files or packet capture files. And they'll learn to use two standard professional network traffic analysis tools. They'll learn to use Network Miner, which is a highly automated tool, which provides some insight. And then they'll learn to use Wireshark, which is a much more powerful manual tool for analyzing network traffic. After that introduction to network traffic analysis, they'll be asked to exploit a vulnerable website and to fix the vulnerability. They'll learn to think like an attacker. They'll learn a common exploit to take advantage of a vulnerability of some websites. And by the way, these vulnerabilities are disappearing, this particular one. So it's not the case that a student's going to be able to go out and break into every website on the internet. They will learn to crack a password, and then they will learn to fix the vulnerability that they were able to exploit. And as part of this, students will learn and practice conducting effective online technical research. We highly recommend buying the book, Practical Packet Analysis by Chris Sanders. He's a very well-known guru in network traffic analysis, and it is available from Amazon, but we do recommend buying it from the publisher for a couple of reasons. One reason is the Amazon version, if you buy the Kindle version, does not have page numbers. And so if we say read pages 30 through 40, then you have to count to find those pages. And also, and in a way, very importantly, is the author gets a much better royalty if you buy it through the publisher than if you buy it from Amazon. So we do recommend buying it from the publisher. Okay, let's get to work. So it's an email from our boss. His name is Trevor Roach. And you're a new employee at Coldfire. And what Coldfire is Coldfire is a managed security service provider. And MSSPs, as they're called, outsource the monitoring of network traffic. And so what happened is someone was walking by the desk of an IT employee and noticed a bunch of weird text on the screen and reported it. And the MSSP has full packet capture. So they captured that network traffic, and the student, as a beginning analyst, is asked to analyze that network traffic and decide, was the guy doing something malicious, or was he just screwing around? So again, as I mentioned earlier, all of the work done in this course will be done in a private cloud environment. In particular, it's an Amazon Web Services private cloud. Students will be given access to a virtual machine in this cloud, and they will use tools on that virtual machine for all of their analyses. And they will have to install a small client called Amazon Workspaces to access their virtual machine. Okay, so this is a project roadmap. And what it is, it's a high-level work plan for accomplishing what students have been asked to accomplish. So students are going to do an investigation of potentially malicious network traffic, but students don't necessarily have a notion of how to do an investigation. So they'll begin by learning how to do an investigation. So, I mean, you start at the beginning. Why are you doing the investigation? What are some initial questions you have? And a novice mistake is a lot of analysts don't formulate a set of initial questions before they dive in and start looking around. But if you don't have any questions, then you're not focused on looking for answers. Also, analysts typically have hypotheses. They think they know what's going on. And so it's actually important to articulate any hypotheses you have, because they're going to bias your thinking. So you want to be clear about what your hypotheses are. And then you structure your investigation around answering the questions you've come up with and confirming, disconfirming any hypotheses. And as you've done this, as you are doing this, you will gain additional information, which will rule out some hypotheses, perhaps suggest new hypotheses, and ultimately confirm something as being what happened. And then as you work, you should document what you're doing, because we are going to ask the students to write a report on the work. After learning how to conduct an investigation, and there is more detail, in the learning resources, and you can see we have an article by Chris Sanders on how to do that. And we also have an article, several articles on the threat landscape, and in particular, the threat landscape for this particular task is potential insider threats. So in the next step in this project roadmap, students will get used to working in this Amazon Web Services private cloud environment. Everyone who logs into the environment gets a Windows 10 virtual machine. So even if you're coming in on a Mac, like I would be, you're going to be on Windows in this environment. And you need to access the file that has the network traffic, and it's on a file server. And we're going to use something called FTP to access that file. So you need to have a particular piece of software to access the file. And so students are going to use something called WinSCP, and we want students to install that themselves. We could have certainly installed it for them, but we just want students to get used to touching the environment, seeing what it's like. Okay, so the first thing they're going to do is they're going to use this network miner tool to do a fairly automated analysis of this packet capture or PCAP file. And you can see we have guidance on how to do that. We also have a warning. It turns out you can actually execute anything that's executable in that file, and that's never a good idea. So the students need more in-depth information on working with Network Miner. You can see we have learning resources. A learning resource on the key features of Network Miner. We have an example of doing an investigation using this tool. And we have another article on how to capture and analyze network traffic. After doing this analysis using this fairly automated tool, they're going to write an initial report. And they're going to explain what the investigation is about, why they were asked to do it, and what they found. And then this would be a fairly non-technical explanation of the investigation for, say, a business stakeholder. Then there should also be an appendix that provides technical documentation to support every conclusion that was drawn and written about in part one of the report. And just as a quick aside, sometimes this network traffic analysis or log analysis is called network forensics. We are teaching it from more of a corporate perspective, how people do it when investigating an incident. We are not teaching it from a law enforcement perspective because there are a lot of special considerations about preservation of evidence that are really beyond the scope of this course. Students will submit their report. I can create a fake submission. I don't actually have to submit a report, but the students will have to submit one. And we use what's called a mastery-based approach, which means if we look at the student's report and we believe that the student could do more work and deepen their mastery of the underlying knowledge and skills, we'll give them a lot of feedback and ask them to do that. Being an exemplary student, my first submission was well done, so I can go on. Now they're asked to dig deeper and use this more complex tool called Wireshark. And you can see it is a much more complex tool. It has a lot of filters and has a lot of power to do some very in-depth analyses. We have added some new resources. We've added a resource on network fundamentals, this is a video. And we've added some resources on how to use Wireshark, including some examples. And one of the interesting examples we have is an example that was done by someone who's a fellow beginner. Sometimes if you watch an expert do an investigation, you don't get as much out of it. The expert just kind of blows through things. Everything's fairly automatic for the expert, but a beginner will actually kind of move more slowly, think about things, and in this example, articulate things more than an expert would. So you'll do this work using Network Miner. You will write a new report. And something we ask students to do as part of this report is to compare the experience of doing analysis with Network Miner and with Wireshark. And that's actually very valuable. You can actually see the strengths and weaknesses of each tool. And that's something that a professional would often be asked to do, to evaluate tools. They'll submit their work. Again, we use a mastery-based approach. So the student might be asked to redo the work, but yeah, mine was well done, so I don't have to. And then we ask the students to reflect on what they've just done. So what privacy concerns arise if you monitor someone's network traffic at work? Do people have a reasonable expectation of privacy when they're using a computer, even in their work environment? We asked the student to think about what went well, what could they have done better? And an interesting question to think about is, what advice would you give a new student if you were mentoring them in this task? And speaking of mentoring, along the way, students can always get help and advice from their mentor. We will have a 1-hour session every day, which will be a formal structured session with a mentor, which might be group problem solving. It might involve technology demonstrations, or might involve reflection discussions. We will also have office hours in the evening where students can come and they can talk to a mentor about anything that's interesting to them, things they're working on, things they don't understand, advice they need, or just about the field in general. And of course, at this point, students can start to think about, do they like this work? Would they be interested in a career in this field? Let me just give you a little taste of the next task too. So it turns out that after completing this work for this MSSP, the student gets a job with a government cyber operations agency. And here's a call from their new boss. He is the head of an organization called Cyber Team 10.
Welcome to Cyber Team 10. I'm afraid there's not much time for introductions and orientation. I'm going to need you to get to work right away. I'll follow up with an email to get you started. I'm sorry there's not more time to train you, but we're on the front lines and there are lives at stake. You'll have to learn on the job.
So much for easing into a new task, right? So he does follow up. And what happened here is that human intelligence intercepted a message between members of a cybercrime group. And what the message says, it says that the website of a key supplier to the United States Navy is vulnerable to something called a local file inclusion exploit. And just to give you a little bit of background on that, you know, a website is just a collection of files. There's a file for every page. And what your browser does is your browser says, send me the file for this page, and then it renders it and you look at it. Well, if there's a certain type of vulnerability, you can ask the web server to send you files that are not part of the website, like the files where the hash encoded passwords are stored. And that's exactly what we're going to do here. We're going to use a tool called Burp Suite, and then we're going to get the password file, and then we're going to use a tool called John the Ripper to crack the webmaster's password. If you are an experienced hacker, these few lines of text tell you everything you need to know to exploit the site and to own the web server. But since you're not an experienced hacker, we're going to take you through it step by step with the project roadmap, and also with constant support from a mentor. And let me mention one more thing, which is that what students are doing in this task is illegal if done, say, not as a penetration tester working for a company to find vulnerabilities or working for a government agency. And we have zero tolerance for people abusing the things they learn. So I'm going to stop the demo at that point and say, are there any questions? Please don't hesitate, ask a question. I mean, this is your chance to learn more about the program. Okay, it seems like there are no questions. So this educational approach, we call the story-centered curriculum approach. We developed this when I was a professor at Carnegie Mellon University. We graduated over 1,200 master students at Carnegie Mellon who went through programs that were exclusively taught this way, and hundreds more Carnegie Mellon students took individual courses taught this way. And as I said earlier, this approach promotes learning knowledge and skills in a way that will transfer naturally to doing professional work in the workplace. We put a strong emphasis on skills beyond purely technical skills. And again, our highly knowledgeable, skilled mentors are always there to help students. They are our employees, and their only job is to help students succeed in the program. We just completed running this program with a group of high school students from UC Davis, and every student succeeded. And to tell you the truth, that's better than happens when we run the program for adult learners. So students should have strong basic computer skills. This is a very technical field, and so students, they don't need to have like professional IT experience, but they need to be comfortable doing complex things on a computer, sometimes doing independent research and applying what they learn to their independent research. And also, because this is taught online and because they'll be working in a private cloud environment, they should have a desktop or laptop computer with a high-speed internet connection. And I generally say the faster, the better. And as far as the computer itself, any modern computer will do. So here are a couple of students who've gone through the program. So, one student says, really like how the class was focused on an investigation of cyber crime. Yeah, that was a really cool experience. And here's another student who went through the program, and this encouraged her to go on and study cybersecurity in college. And she's actually doing quite well. And as a matter of fact, that second student opted to go through our full adult program. She got a taste of it, she loved it, and she went on. And we're seeing that with some of the students who went through the last session at UC Davis as well. So we're going to run the program this summer. It's 10 weeks with a 1-week break in the middle. Certainly we'll be very flexible around the 4th of July holidays. And then we're going to run it again in the fall. You can see there's the tuition for the program, and you enroll with that link. You needn't write all this down, because if you've registered for the webinar, we will send you a copy of the deck and probably a link to this presentation, which is being recorded. So if you have questions about the program itself, please contact me. That's me, Ray Baris at SocraticArts.com. The program manager for these high school career exploration programs is Sandy Montrose, and V is a program specialist, and V and I work very closely together. So you would probably contact V or Sandy with any administrative questions about registration or anything related to that, and contact me about any content related questions. So, do you have any questions at this point? While you're thinking, I will give you the link where you can learn more about this. So please text a question if you have one. Be glad to answer any questions you have. Okay. It seems like perhaps there aren't questions. So if a question occurs to you, please email us. And those are our email addresses. Okay, V, I think we have reached the end of the webinar.
Yes, thank you all for joining us, and thank you, Ray, for giving such a great explanation of this course. And we hope that you all are registered. If not, please go to the link. If you have any questions, as Ray said, please email me. I'd be happy to answer them for you. All right, thank you and have a great day.
Okay, well, thank you all very much for giving us some of your time, this afternoon. And we hope that, you are interested in registering if you're a student, or if you're a parent, we hope that you're interested in encouraging your student to register. So thanks again and have a great evening, everyone.